Hello, friends. Welcome to Divine Will 101 on this channel, In His Will. My name's Debbie Bird Smith. And tonight we're going to talk about who is this woman, Luisa Piccaretta, that God chose as his very special messenger and teacher, example of living in the divine will. And we're going to start that tonight. We're going to take a look at this little book called Son of My Will tonight on Divine Will Divine Will 101. Coming up right now. Thank you for joining me. And as I mentioned in the intro, we're going to talk about this book, The Son of My Will. And actually, we're going to start going through this book because it is full of treasures, as all the writings are. But it gives us a real glimpse into the life of Luisa Piccaretta. And I think it's important for us to know, who is this woman? Who is this person that God chose? That actually was animated with the life of Jesus, just as the Blessed Mother was. And she was, by earthly terms, a nobody. Nobody. So this book, The Son of My Will, it is about the life of Luisa Piccaretta. It's about the divine will. It's about how she came upon this gift, how she was called to relay this gift, to spread the gift of the divine will, to write down all of these messages, all of these interactions and conversations that we had with Jesus, she had with Jesus, and all of the interactions that she had with the Blessed Mother, and the sufferings and the sacrifices that she made, all for love of Jesus. And so I'm going to start off with the foreword of this book. Again, the name of the book is The Son of My Will. And I will put in the description below some of the places you might be able to look for this book. It may not be the easiest book in the world to find, but you can find it on the internet. You can find the whole book on the internet. And tonight I'm just going to read the foreword. I'm just going to give you a little bit of an introduction to this book and what it's about, a little overview of Luisa. And then this is going to become a regular feature on the channel that you'll be able to tune in and just, we're just going to go through the book and read it. And knowing me, I may comment here and there on the book. But I think it's important for everybody really to get this information. And I know that the book can be a little difficult to find. And I just wanted to share it with you because I think that it's important for us all to really understand this life that she led and the sacrifice actually that she made and who she was, because she was one of God's chosen ones, and she is a servant of God. And I believe that in God's timing, she will be a saint. And so we want to begin to study her life as soon as we can to get as much as we can and understand as much as we can about this little daughter of the divine will. This is what Jesus called her. So we're going to start with the foreword of the book. It begins, the title of this book indeed offers the key to reading about Luisa Piccaretta's life, anchored as it is to the will of God, the sun of her life. She has her own message to share about the divine will, which she presents as an ordinary woman who was out of the ordinary. Boy, isn't that true? She is, in fact, an ordinary woman like many others who live simply in a small town in southern Italy, and she is a woman who suffers. We'll read a lot about Louisa's sufferings in this book and come to understand the extent of her sufferings, which were great, and what maybe get a little bit better insight as to what suffering means in this life. She spends her days bedridden, but we will see what makes her stand out from the others who go through the same thing. And yet, while they appear to be similar, can learn from her how to give meaning to their suffering. She lives off her work, doing what her condition allows her to do, that is, tatting. That's handcrafting lace with wooden bobbins without withdrawing from the world by using her condition of continual suffering as an excuse. She has a circle of friends, some relatively important in her life. She offers everyone a comforting word and advice when asked. She has a small group of pupils who gather around her to learn from her the art of tatting lace. She gives these apprentices the opportunity to learn a trade that gives them a valuable skill and a hands-on educational experience that contributes to their growth as women and Christians. Little aside here about this work that she did of tatting, which is it's a beautiful way of producing lace. And if you saw in Corrado the beautiful lace kinds of things that she created, some for the altar, some for homes, some for whatever, you would see what an extraordinary skill this is. And she would teach the young women of the village how to tat this lace, which was a very kind of a prolific way of making a living. And as she was doing that, she would teach them about the divine will. So she made the divine will the whole of her life. But she is also a woman who's out of the ordinary. She's a Catholic, and as such is called, like all baptized men and women, to be in communion with the God of Jesus Christ. Each person, however, has his or her own path to follow in order to live in communion with Christ. Her path goes beyond the ordinary. This is why she's an extraordinarily ordinary woman, immersed in the mystery of God. I think that's a beautiful description of her. She's extraordinarily ordinary. She was bedridden, which was part of her extraordinary life, because she was bedridden for something like 60 years. She had an infirmity that no one could really actually even pinpoint, but she was bedridden. She couldn't walk. She was bedridden, but she was able to make a living. She lived in her house. Her sister Angela took care of her, and she lived this very extraordinary life. And from the time that she was really a child, she began to have these encounters with Jesus. It says her being out of the ordinary cannot be understood if we overlook the communion of saints and the mystery of the mystical body of Jesus Christ, which is the church. These are the two main characteristics of a life that is given for others and is fully part of the church, to which she is especially devoted. So devoted that she always obeys whomever has governing authority in the church, as we will see in the telling of her story. She is completely devoted. She is completely faithful to the magisterium of the church. Even though she received this extraordinary, unusual, never heard of before gift and teaching, she never wavered from her faithfulness to the church, her faithfulness to the sacraments, her faithfulness to the magisterium, her faithfulness to all she had learned in her growing up in this little Italian village of Corrado. Her life is embedded in a historical, geographical, and ecclesial context that makes up the rich soil for her experience of life, lived in an unordinary way, a life given to her by God, so that He might offer through her a message of hope for the whole world. And boy, did He. This extraordinary gift of the divine will is it's changing lives. It's changing the way that we experience God in a richer, fuller experience, I would say, because he had such an intimate encounter with Luisa, and she had such an intimate encounter with Jesus and with his blessed mother. Docile to every word the Lord Jesus tells her, she obeys her confessor, who makes her transcribe those words. Her writings emerge from that interaction. Their study forms the basis of this biography. Ample space in the volume has been devoted to her published writings, so as to trace the vicissitudes of her life over the years. So through this volume, we're going to hear many snippets, many portions of what she was given from Jesus to her in the divine will, from the Blessed Mother in the divine will, how she experienced those messages. She was told by her confessor, you need to write these all down. Louise was an extremely humble soul who didn't even want to do that. She didn't want to share this at all. She wanted it to be private. She was obedient. She said her writings are revealed as original in their form, with the spelling errors and style of a woman who has a hard time writing. But those things do not matter because the message one reads is very clear and unguarded. Luisa, in fact, uses her everyday manner of speaking in her conversations with God. God understands her. She understands what God is telling her, and she knows how to pass it on to us. Then again, that does not surprise us. The Lord Jesus spoke the language of his time back then. And as people know, the apparitions of Our Lady are not above communicating with humanity in this way. For example, the Blessed Virgin Mary spoke to Saint Bernadette Soubirous using the local dialect. And Our Lady of La Salette used the very language of the children, Maxime Girard and Melanie Calvat, to whom she appeared. So too, Luisa hears Jesus speaking in her language, which is almost formal Italian, but interspersed with many expressions of dialect that are still, nonetheless, understandable today because they are lively and unpretentious. So she spoke with Jesus just as she would speak to her neighbor, just as she would speak to the other people of the village. She was not in any way, as we would say in Missouri, she was not in any way highfalutin. She was down to earth. She was who she was. She was a poor peasant farmer. That's who her father was. They would leave. Actually, we'll see this in the writings. She would leave the town of Corrado and go out into the country where her father would farm in the summertime. And we'll learn in here that Luisa only had basically a first-grade education. And as you read the writings of Luisa Piccaretta, you'll come to understand that there is no way that a person with a first-grade education could have written all that's in these writings in the way that they're presented, because they are deep theological truths. The writings of Luisa Piccaretta are considered high theology, but don't let that scare you off, because they are very deep and they are very profound. But they're also very simple. And as we adjust our reading to her writing style and how she relates these things, we begin to absorb these teachings. We begin to learn to live in this life of the divine will and not our own will. it becomes a very beautiful and profound experience. So I think that you'll find that just interacting with Luisa in one sense in this writing of her life and many of the things that she said and related to other people, as it says, she was extremely docile to Jesus. She was also very, very, very shy. I'll give you a little heads up here on what's to come. She was very, very shy, extraordinarily shy. And when she exclaimed to Jesus at one point, she said, I can't do this. You know, write all this stuff down. No, 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 no. I want it to be private. I'm shy. I'm a little person. You know, I don't want any, you know, I don't want any public life. And Jesus would say to her, I know you're shy. I made you that way. It reminds me of when St. Faustina was told by Jesus to go ask her superior if she would allow her to wear a hair shirt. And she went to her superior and asked her, what do you have permission, Jesus? I need to ask you if you'll give me permission to wear a hair shirt. If you don't know anything about a hair shirt, you might want to look it up, but it's extremely uncomfortable. It's a great penance that used to be practiced. And and the Mother Superior said, there's no way in the world I'm ever going to allow you to do that. If you have the strength of a colossus, would I allow you to wear a hair shirt? And so the Mother Superior left the room, and then she saw Jesus standing in the door. And she said, she told him what she said. And he says, I know, I was here. I heard you. This is one of the things we'll hear sometimes in a roundabout way in these writings. And Jesus and Louise's conversations, different things that happened. He was like, I know, I was here. I was watching you. I'm in on it. There's nothing that happens in our lives that Jesus isn't in on, that he doesn't know, that he hasn't caught his attention, because we have all of his attention. And so I hope that you'll join me. And again, this isn't going to be a regular feature of a Divine Will 101 necessarily, but I do think that it's going to be something that you will enjoy. And if you have the book, I strongly encourage you to follow along with me as we go through it. And I'd love to hear your comments about maybe something that came up in the biography that you didn't know, or that was surprising to you, or that was particularly efficacious for you. It really kind of raised your understanding of what was going on, because this is how we help one another. This is how we learn from one another. Is we can all read the writings and we can read the same words. That doesn't mean that we all interpret them or understand them or incorporate them into our being in the same way. And so this is one of the ways that we can help one another. And I think it's so important. You know, I do the snippets and we take little looks at the writings, little parts of the writings, because there are over 10,000 pages. Because when you look at the writings of Luisa Piccaretta, the Hours of the Passion and the Kingdom of Heaven of the Blessed Virgin Mary, or the Blessed Virgin Mary in the Kingdom of Heaven, that's a lot of writing. That's a lot. There's a lot of words. And so she spent many, many years. This was her life's work. This was her mission. This was this extraordinary soul that Jesus chose. In many ways, just as God chose Mary to be the physical and mother of Jesus. She was an extraordinary, extraordinary soul. And so is Luisa, but they were extremely humble souls. You'll find that the saints typically are very small, little, humble souls. And so Jesus is teaching us to be little, be humble, be little, be malleable. Let me form you. Let me form your soul. Let me train your mind. I will give you what you need, whatever level of intellect you need. Luisa had a first grade education, barely. And if you've read any of the writings, you understand that no first grader could have written that. No first grade educated person could do that. That was Jesus. That was God who did that. And so this extraordinary soul really deserves and requires a closer look. So I hope that you'll join me in this endeavor, and I hope that you'll enjoy it as much as I've enjoyed reading this book. You'll see, and I inherited this book. You know, many of the books that I have, The Divine Will, are books that I inherited. We have a very, very large group here in the town where I live, the city where I live in Florida. There's a large group of Divine Will people. Father Ed Young, and you've probably seen him in some of his teaching. He was an early teacher of the Divine Will here in the United States. He taught it from Tampa, Florida, and he would come up to the town where I lived 1 week in a month and teach the group that I'm in. Some of those members are still alive and kicking, and some of them have passed on. And bless their hearts, when I was a newbie, and I came into the Divine Will a little over 10 years ago, that's what they gave me. They filled me up. They're like, oh, here, read this, Debbie, read this, Debbie. Here's a volume, read that. And it helped me along and held my hand. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to do here over the internet, is hold you by the hand and help walk you through some of these things that have been so beneficial to me, and I know to many, many others in our walk in the Divine Will. So I hope that you'll join me. If you have not subscribed to the channel, I would really encourage you to subscribe for a couple of reasons. I know that some of you have contributed to the ministry financially, and I appreciate that very, very much. You don't know how much I appreciate it. This costs a lot of money, actually, to have this platform. You have to buy the streaming service. I pay for the Zoom streaming service for my Cenacles. And basically this just all comes out of my pocket. I call it my expensive hobby, because certainly the channel doesn't support itself. And so some of you have sent me some contributions, and I appreciate every bit of it, believe me. And if you can contribute to the channel, it's most appreciated. But if you're not able or willing to contribute financially, like the video, share the video, make a comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell to be notified, because that in itself helps the channel a great, great deal. Because this is how the channel has been built. One person at a time, subscribing, sharing it, passing it on, telling others about it. When you share the video, or you like the video, or you subscribe and hit the notification bell or comment, it makes a huge difference in the algorithm, the way that the videos pop up. You know that when you go onto YouTube, certain videos will pop up for you. Some are with people that you've never actually seen before, but maybe they're in the same kind of category of something that you've been interested in. The same thing happens with this channel. And many, many times new people come into our little family of the Divine Will here in His Will just that way. So that would be a tremendous help to me and to the channel. And also, any questions or comments that you have, I'd love to read your comments. I do read all the comments. I may reply to your comment because I truly and sincerely appreciate you so much. And I hope that you'll look at, and there's so many people that contribute to this channel. It's not just me. Dawn has worked with me in his Divine Will 101, and Father Celso has a playlist here because he's appeared so many times on this channel. Mother Gabriel has appeared so many times on this channel. Dan Shiles is here, and he's he's just so kind and generous with his time and his knowledge. I just recorded a video with him. There's a playlist for Dan. So poke around and see what you find on the channel, something that you like. And if there's something that you would like to see that I don't have, or something you'd like to learn about that I don't have, please let me know. Send me an email or leave a comment. And if you're not in a Divine Will Cenacle, I'd encourage you to get into one. I teach 2 a week, one on Monday evenings and one on Tuesday mornings, 7 o'clock on Monday evening Eastern Time and 11 o'clock on Tuesday morning Eastern Time. You can adjust that to whatever your time zone is and wherever you are in the world, because I have people from all over the world who come to our Cenacles, and we read the Divine Will and talk about it, kind of dissect it a little bit so that we can understand it better. Sort of like what I do in the snippets. So I thank you for watching. I thank you for letting me ramble on here a little bit. And I thank you all for being my family here, my friends, my connection with the world, because God has called us all to be united in the Divine Will. And so that's what we attempt to do here on our little channel in His Will. So until next time, I say thank you, God bless you, and remember to always stay in His will. Bye-bye.